We're still wearing these clothes.
I know.
I don't even know where I am anymore.
You want to get to number 2?
Yeah, well, let's do it. I'll just
You're changing sunglasses?
try to help
Literally
you out.
no one will notice the difference. I'm sitting next to you, and I don't even notice the difference.
Usually receivers, because the formats that we talk about all the time, there's 2 running backs, always 3 receivers, or there's 2 receivers and a flex.
Right.
And the flex is usually going to be a running back if you're happy enough. If you're lucky enough to get that, you're going to get a wide receiver. Wide receivers
Let's just talk about that for a second, though.
Yeah.
Because the flex position, the running back position at flex is just more predictable, right? So a receiver,
you're getting 20 touches, guaranteed.
Right, exactly. So if you're fortunate enough to have a running back to start in flex, that's great. But if you start looking at wide receivers for flex, you got to go with a guy who's one. You still have to go with a 1 or a 2. As soon as you start leaking into number 3, number 4 options,
It's so tough.
it is tough because you have to have a high-powered offense. Like, it has to be a quarterback who's throwing the ball 45 times a game. And I don't know of a better offense to steal value out of than the player you're going to mention right now.
Yes, but with a new team,
Yeah.
this is why he's going to be underrated. New team coming off of an injury.
Yep.
Now, when you put those 2 together, everyone's kind of like, no. I'll wait. I'll wait till maybe I'll get him. I'll be high on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
And I'll pick him up then.
Right.
This is a guy you don't want to wait till the waiver wire. He could have a very explosive year this year.
Number two.
That's Cameron Meredith.
Love Cameron Meredith in New Orleans.
Because it's usually back in the day when you were picking New Orleans or picking a player from New Orleans, you either picked Breeze or Graham or you didn't pick anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, now Kamara's there.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because, you remember Lance Moore would have 5 catches for 120 yards.
And then-
Next week he'd have 1 catch for 7 yards.
Yep. That's what happened.
Kenny Stills, same deal.
Yeah.
Colston had a little bit more consistency there.
Yeah, Colston was pretty dependable
Yes.
from a fantasy perspective. For
But
a while.
I put him on par with Roddy White. Like, you never knew.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
They
I
were-
think that's very fair.
They were
That's
a
very
5
fair.
for 70 guy every week.
Yeah.
So, but the thing was, you want to talk about explosive players. Now you look down in New Orleans, you got Kamara there, and you got Breeze. Who else is there that you really like? That's really a huge threat. And Meredith, although he's coming off a very serious knee injury, although he's coming from a different team. There's a
One
reason
that
New Orleans
wasn't very good at throwing the football.
Exactly.
I mean, Chicago just simply couldn't throw the football the last 2 years.
There's a reason why New Orleans wanted him there. And he's had, like you said, he's had significant time to recover.
Yeah, this
From
is
that
not
injury.
this is not like Carson Wentz knee injury in December. This
Yes.
is not. He tore his ACL week 1 of the season, so he had the full season to recover. He's a full participant at camp. Like he had almost a full year to recover.
Yeah.
And for him, I think that's going to be what it takes. He's had the time to recover, and he was a dangerous weapon in Chicago.
Prior to
Yeah, and I think I understand why Chicago didn't bring him back, even though the injury was in week 1. You have Mitchie Biscuits throwing the football. You're not going to invest money in a wide receiver. There's just no point in investing money in a wide receiver. Why do it? You got whatever. You got what you got out there.
you decided to give that money to Trey Burton
Yeah, that's
and Kevin
yeah.
White, who also had a knee injury.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's weird, like that. What's going on there? In
I don't
Chicago,
really
but-
trust Chicago as far as the talent perspective and evaluation goes. They're just not great at that right now. They're just not a good football team. So him leaving Chicago makes total sense because I don't think very highly of their pro scouting department.
How highly do you think of Andy Reid? You believe he's a?
Andy Reid?
Do you think over the years, Andy Reid and his receivers? Do you think they were really prosperous? They were really good.
Sure.
I mean, they're
Sure.
serviceable.
Yeah,
like we
sure.
say all the time. Well, Nagy's there now. He was the offensive coordinator for
Yep.
Reid. So I never remember an Andy Reid wide receiver, with the exception of T.O., jumping off the page as far as his fantasy value.
Yeah.
So even if you're looking at, it's almost like a benefit that Meredith went to New Orleans
Yeah.
because he wasn't going to get any passes there that would put him off the charts anyway.
Yeah.
So now if you look about it, I mean, you think about it in that respect,
You're getting a
He's
guy
gonna
who was
get
he was number 1 in Chicago.
Yes.
He was a number 1 receiver, and now he's going to New Orleans where he's going to be the number 2. But we're talking two different animals here. New Orleans offense versus Chicago's offense. Chicago could play 3 games and not get the offensive stats that New Orleans will put up and won.
But
It's true.
But more so than any of our other picks, when we talk about Jimmy G and Jerick McKinnon, we talked about Eli Manning, and you want to talk about these players that we talked about. Oh, 10th round or later. You'd be hard pressed to tell me that Cameron Meredith is going to go in the 8th round.
No way.
In the 9th round.
No way.
But you can make that argument
People
for
are
Manning and Jimmy G and stuff like that.
People are going to
but you
forget
can't.
about him, and they're going to see
Yeah.
the injury history coming from Chicago. Still a lot of question marks as far as his performance goes because he truthfully didn't have a ton of time showcasing his skills on an NFL level. But in New Orleans, and I get that right now, that New Orleans they have a great running game with Ingram and with Kamara. Ingram's going to be suspended for 2 games? Did he get a game? 4 games?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. For early season value for Cameron Meredith, that's perfect. He may even be a guy that you can draft and trade in weeks 4, 5, 6, because once Ingram comes back, his value's probably going to take a little bit of a dip. But you could really look and stack his value into the first 4 weeks. If he's great the first 4 weeks, he's a player look to trade.
So in your eyes, he is similar to a 2 years ago Marvin Jones.
Yeah, perfect example.
He's going to come out of the gates fired.
Yeah.
And then you could trade him.
Yeah, his value was never going to be higher. Marvin Jones, what was it, last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Marvin Jones' value was never going to be higher the first 6 weeks of the season. Never. He was the best player in fantasy football.
Mm-hmm.
So you deal him because you know it's not sustained. Like, you
Yes.
know he's not going to sustain that value. I think Cameron Meredith is in that boat. Now, in a dynasty league, is he worth holding on to? Well, Cameron Meredith is only as valuable as how long Drew Brees plays. So in a dynasty league, as soon as Brees is gone, his value's in the tank. So I think you get what you can get for him while you can still get something for him. I've
Yeah.
always been a big proponent of that. So his value in a dynasty league looks great just as long as Brees is playing. But the moment you smell, or the moment you sniff a Drew Brees retirement, you gotta get out of there.
Side note: do you pay more than $20 for Breeze this year in a dynasty league?
I think $20 is as high as you go for Brees.
Really? You think it's his final year?
I don't know, man. Like, I looked at his production last year, and Kamara and Ingram were that offense, right? So
They're extending his career, but not in a fantasy sense.
right, yeah. I think he's still a fantasy performer. I think you still take him as a QB1. I don't see any problem why you wouldn't take him as QB1.
Yeah.
But in a dynasty format, again, he's got lesser value than another QB. If I'm looking at the board and it's between Deshaun Watson and Drew Brees, I hate to say it, but Deshaun Watson to me was a dumpster fire, but he was putting up tons of points. I saw a lot of red flags with Deshaun Watson, a lot. And a lot of people argue that with me, but when I went back and watched those games, there were a lot of things happening that I don't think he saw. And yes, he was putting up tons of points, but that's because he was throwing long touchdown passes. He was throwing home runs.
Yeah.
So-
That's what happens with the when you talked about with Marvin Jones, he came out of the gate firing.
Yeah.
Defenses didn't have time to adjust to Watson,
Right.
so he got hurt, and then they were like, "What?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they didn't have time. They probably, you don't know
Well,
how
they-
his progression would have been in the last 6, 7
And they
games.
did not want to start him. They did not. But Tom Savage was so bad. They didn't have a choice. Like, he was so bad. So, if I was looking at Deshaun Watson versus Drew Brees, and you're going to get a chance at both of them, right? If you're looking at QB, those two guys are going to be on the board, right? Deshaun Watson's value is going to be inflated because he played so little games. He put up so many points while he was playing. And then you have Drew Brees, which is like Mr. Dependable fantasy quarterback. It's going to be where your team is. Am I looking at stacking Deshaun Watson with stacking Kareem Hunt and stacking, Calvin Ridley? No, I'm staying away from Deshaun Watson, right? I'm not going to stack youth on top of youth. Although in a dynasty league, you want to do that. It's attractive to do that. It's not a good strategy. So I'm still taking Drew Brees over Deshaun Watson for the dependability at that position, just as long as I have some younger players.
It's always
stacked
like
around him.
why you it's just like the NFL. Why you rebuild you have this consistent 30-point guy every week
Yeah.
with Breeze.
Yep.
And
And Cameron Meredith is a boomer bust candidate, but with how late you're going to get him, I mean, you're not looking at 10th round. You're looking at like last
12.
3 players on your board, last 3 rounds. Like he might still be there.
do you think? Now I know this is apples and oranges, but I just thought about it because you said the last 3 rounds. Last year, we went through the entire draft. My brother's league that I'm in, and right when the draft was over, I drafted a running back I didn't want, so I dropped him and I picked up Adam Thielen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who do you think he's one of those guys who could? Meredith is a guy that could completely go undrafted, and someone
Very
will pick
possible.
him up right at the
Very
end. And
possible.
Okay.
Yeah, very possible. He's a guy that in an auction draft, when you put him out there, you might get him for the dollar that you bet on him for.
Yeah.
Somebody might go, what the hell? I won't go higher than 5. Yeah, I won't go higher than 5. So,
But still, you're getting good value, I think.
yeah, I agree.
With Ingram out for those 4 games, that's 80 plays that usually he would take.
Yeah.
That you got to get yardage.
The advantage with Meredith in an auction draft is because of the player and the history that he has. Whoever throws his name out there, you gotta want him, right? So if you threw out Cameron Meredith's name and we start going back and forth, bid, we get to $5, I'm like, he's not gonna stop. He really wants him, and I would stop. I'd be like, I'm not gonna.
A lot of people aren't like that, though.
We're gonna be at this all day. So I think the advantage with Cameron Meredith is you wait, but if you want him, you're gonna have to put him up. You can't wait for somebody else to do it. And there's some theory behind that in auction drafts where you don't put up guys that you want. You wait for them to be good.
That happens with all of those. But there are some people that will just throw guys out there that they don't want. But if you see a name like Meredith, and there's other names very similar to that. You see a name like Meredith, and you're going, what?
Who that?
What?
Yeah.
He must want this guy. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
Love Cameron Meredith in New Orleans. Big time boomer
it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. I don't know. Yeah, there's like 4 games, 80 plays. They can't give them all to Kamara.
No.
So
exactly. I think the first 4 weeks he has a huge option for that first half.
Cameron Meredith.
And then you deal him if you can.